Welcome to Living Chassidus. Together, let's live the Chassidus we learn.
Okay, good morning, everybody, and welcome to Chassidus in the morning. 15 minutes. Chassidus. Today's shir, the 26th of Cheshvan, is sponsored in honor of Dvar Liebman's father's yahrzeit, Yichil Milchu ben Menashe Tzvi. Yichil Milchu ben Menashe Tzvi. And for Refuah Shalema, for Rafal Eliyahu ben Chana Leah, Chaim David, Rafal ben Sarah. Okay, so good morning, everybody, and welcome back after the weekend. So basically, we're in the middle of discussing how haChassidus adds a whole depth or the essence to an idea. And the idea we were talking about is Moed Ani. So we talked about the Moed Ani, the simple Moed Ani, the taking Hashem for Neshama, and then we added the Chassidus Shatayich, is not just taking Hashem for my Neshama, but I'm taking Hashem for the Neshama that's the Yiddish Neshama, that's a Jewish Neshama. Like example we gave of the king, that if he sent his son to live in the ban, not just he won't be so thankful, but he'll be very unhappy about living in the ban because it's not where he belongs. So too, that's what we're thankful. Not just in this world, and animals also in this world, but that we have in Neshama or Yid. It's like the story of Leplo. That was the Al Pi Pshat with what Chassidus adds, and then we're talking how Chassidus adds into the Moed Ani in the Drush, which is. In the Remez, which Remez is that's hinting to Toras. So he said, because really, in the first glance, if you think about it, Toras and waking up from your sleep are totally different things. Because waking up, we said it's only 1/6 of the death, but Toras is total is like you go from totally dead to alive. And also that Toras is really rejuvenation of the body and the soul. Whereas when you meaning the body, there's the only thing that's left is a loose burn, and from that burn, you're creating a whole body. So with the neshama, we said that neshama it sort of has to go through this whole process to sort of be, so to speak, be recreated. Whereas when you go to sleep and wake up, that doesn't happen. It's not that extreme. So we said, but really, how does Chassidus add to this? Because really, Chassidus helps it all make sense. Because essentially, every moment is its Inyan Toras Meisim. Because every moment the world's being recreated, every single moment from nothingness. From true nothingness to something, and therefore, really, every moment this idea of Toras Meisim, but Moed Ani just brings it out in a clearer way. And without, that's what explained. So now we're up to the Drush. The Drush was as we're going to discuss. We'll do it outside quickly, and then we'll explain inside. The Drush was the fact that when someone lends you something, just like Hashem gives a neshama, and he's not strict on how we pay back and how much we owe him, and he still gives it to us. And so this is we just like as we learned that the Jewish is also for us that we should be very not so rough without returning, with being able to lend things even though we're not always being returned back what we've learned. Don't be so strict about what happens. So now we're going to ask a question that essentially, well, I don't understand. Someone borrows something for you, and you do it on collateral, and you should just keep on lending to them, even though they're not paying you back. That's not it doesn't make any sense. Why would you do that? So Chassidus explains essentially because essentially in the mitzvah, so you could think the mitzvah is about helping someone not lose out. But really, the mitzvah is about connection to Hashem. And so every part of the mitzvah, it has its own mitzvah, which is connection to Hashem. So the fact that you get to lend something to someone, that's the mitzvah. That gives you the opportunity to connect to the Eibishter. Whether they're going to pay you back or not, it's a separate issue. But you have an opportunity to connect to the Eibishter through helping him. And also when it comes back, it's a separate issue to come back. And therefore, with the Chassidus, and of course it makes sense that you want to give it to him. Because giving to him is not about he's not there to make sure you get your money back, but it's there so you can connect to Hashem. So any opportunity I get to connect to Hashem, let me connect to Hashem. Let's see inside. Yud Daled, page 73 in over here. Yud Daled. Yud Daled. haChassidus. We have haChassidus. So what is this life? and this vitalization haChassidus brings in, it brings into the Jewish of made ani is pikadin bad chaverei. So the prohibition of holding back something like an article until you get paid back, meaning someone wants to borrow something, and so you take something as a collateral. But the halachically, that collateral, you have to also give it back. You can't just keep it and never give back till you get paid back. So without haChassidus, haChassidus, ein lo havana l'chayos. Even this thing doesn't really make sense. Since the person owes you money, you borrow something and he said he'll pay you back, and he hasn't paid you back. And there's no way to get the money back. He's domnos the Kabbal as when you have the opportunity to get what you deserve. So why can't you use it? Meaning someone wants to borrow, let's say, something, so you take their wallet as like a collateral. So the guy comes back, he doesn't have the article, the person doesn't have whatever it is. Let's say it's a hand track, and someone needs a hand track. You say, listen, you can have a hand track, just give me something, your wallet. So they take the hand track, and then they come and they say, oh, I don't really have it, so why shouldn't I keep my thing? So my shna, and so he explains it as in the case of another example. My shna mechefetz hagazul mimenu. What's the difference between this case that we're talking about, like a case of someone that steals something from you? If you can't get it out of the person, the ganav, the robber, for whatever reason, the Beis can't get it for you. You can say to someone else, someone should buy it from the robber, from the thief. It's like, as I don't know if you had to get back your thing. Meaning, I want to figure out a way of getting my thing. Whichever way I can get my thing back, let me get it back. So Toras haChassidus, umavheres. So haChassidus comes and explains like this. So remember, the issue is that you lend something to someone and you're not able to get it back, or you took collateral and he's not able to give it back to you. You need a hand track. It's the only hand track there is in the world, and you need it back, and the guy can't give it to you back for whatever reason, and you're holding on to his wallet. So you say, no, I'm not giving you the wallet until you give me a hand track back. And the guy's like, oh, I'm really sorry, but I can't. It's stuck or whatever. I can't get it back to you. So what we want to say is, yeah, I'm not giving it back to you until you figure it out. But what we're learning from the Moed Ani al Pi Jewish is you should give it to him nevertheless. Let him use it. So the question is, why should we let him use it? I need my hand track. I lost my hand track. It's not fair. Why should I lose out? So this is what haChassidus explains. haChassidus comes and explains like this: Shekol haMitzvahs, gam haMitzvahs sheyesh aleim tam. Every mitzvah, even a mitzvah that has a reason, has a logic behind it, but the main idea of the mitzvah is ratzon ha'elyon shel man mitam. It's Hashem's will above reason. Any mitzvah they do, a mitzvah of not stealing, so it's logical. I shouldn't steal. But we're saying, in truth, the mitzvah of not stealing is not because it makes sense. It's because this is Hashem's will and wisdom above reasoning. Ki haratzon hu gam kishahu babatam, because a ratzon, a will, a desire that you have, even when it comes down into reasoning, into logic, nishahu b'mhusik ubifshituse, it always stays in its essence and its simplicity. Meaning, even when it comes down to reasoning, it truly isn't. That's not the true reason. Therefore, gam ha-mitzvah is mishpatim. Therefore, the mitzvahs that are statutes, meaning or ordinances, that they have some logic behind it. You have to fulfill why? Because Hashem commanded you. In the way of Kabbalah Soul. Just like a mitzvah that's a chayk. Mitzvah that's a chayk is a mitzvah that has no logic behind it. Like even in this physical, there's no logic. Let's say the example of like kashrus, there's no logic behind it. Or shatnas, mixing wool and linen. So there's no logic. It doesn't affect you in any way, whether you have wool and linen together or not. It's a mitzvah. And why do it? Because it's a chayk. It's what Hashem told me to do. So he's saying every mitzvah is essentially a chayk. But a mitzvah that has a reasoning, being that Hashem his Ratzon Elyon, his higher will, came and enclosed itself in a reason for this. That's why it's called a mishpat, not called a chayk, meaning it's called a chayk. It's clearly no reasoning, and they didn't even brought down to reason. Whereas a mishpat, it's clearly no reason, but it is brought down into a reason. And therefore, you have to fulfill it also because of the logic behind it. Meaning, essentially, you have to recognize that it's above reasoning. But the fact that it's brought down in reasoning, it means that I should also be fulfilling it because of the reason that's involved. Like, for example, of stealing, that I shouldn't steal because Hashem told me to, but also because logically it doesn't make any sense. So now, and being that every mitzvah is ultimately Hashem's will, that Hashem and His will are one. So every mitzvah is really one with Hashem. Just like for Hashem, you can't say Hashem is here for another reason. Hashem is not here for any reason. Hashem is here because Hashem is here. Hashem made everything. That's what it is. Hashem is here. So therefore, Kain Gam mitzvahsav, so to with his mitzvahs, because we said Hashem is Ratzon, Hashem and his mitzvahs are one. So just like Hashem is one, meaning that there's no reasoning behind it, there's no ulterior motive, so to with the mitzvahs. The mitzvahs aren't there for any other side reason or different reason. Kiyim kol tachlisam hu, the whole essence of a mitzvah is heimatzam, it's the mitzvah itself. Now, so what does this all mean with all this background information? That we're saying that really ultimately a mitzvah is in and of itself. It's one with Hashem. Just like Hashem is not for any reason besides the fact that there's no reason, just Hashem is. So to the mitzvah is, and therefore, b'negeya l'nyaninu, in regards to what we're talking about, it's a mitzvah, hashavas pikarin, returning an object that you, even though you're owed money. Mataras a mitzvah einoi. The reason for the mitzvah is not rak, it's not only bishvil tevas hamafki. It's not just there as a way of protecting the borrower, the lender. That he'll make sure to be able to get his money back completely. That's not the only reason. That is the reason why that mitzvah exists, because that's a mitzvah with logic, and that's the logic behind it, to make sure that you can start something back, so you don't lose out from lending. But on a deeper level, the returning itself is its purpose. Meaning the mitzvah is not the fact that you should be able to be protected in order that you can get back your handtrack in the case we used. It's not the reason why the mitzvah. It's also the reason the mitzvah that you should be protected. But the reason the mitzvah is the opportunity that the person has to return it back. Why is that so important? Because therefore, because of the fact that the mitzvah is not just to protect the person but of being able to get his handtrack back, but it's also them that the other person should return it back. Therefore, when a person is chayiv, is obligated, he owes you money, he doesn't give you your money back. You're not going to say, I'm not going to give him his wallet back. In the case, let's say, of the handtrack. I owes you money, so I'm holding your wallet until you give me money back. Saying you wouldn't do that. Why? Because he's obligated in the mitzvah of returning it back. Meaning, what he's saying is he's separating the mitzvah. The mitzvah is not just a thing that we want to protect people, that to get their money back and things like this. And I'm not going to give you anything else to get my money back. That's not the purpose of the mitzvah. That's also the logic behind it. That's the logic behind the mitzvah. And the purpose of the mitzvah is to have to do a mitzvah. And therefore, when you have the opportunity to do a mitzvah, irrelevant of the consequences, the results, whether you're going to get something back or not, you're still going to do it. And this is, I hope we understand that. Meaning, if the mitzvah is only to protect the person, so he gets his money back, gets his handtrack back, so therefore, we would question ourselves and say, how does Medani hint on the fact that and Hashem returns us and gives us back an neshama even though we haven't paid up our debts or things like this? That doesn't make any sense. Why should I lose out on this contract. But if we're saying, like we are saying, which really it's coming from Chassidus, that there's essentially the mitzvah is above reasoning, and therefore that's not the mitzvah in itself. Above reasoning. It's not the fact. The reason why the mitzvah is there is not because of the fact that in order to protect a person from not losing out on his hand track, the mitzvah is there to do the mitzvah. It's also to protect the person from the hand track. It's the second idea. And being that there's a fundamental first idea, which the purpose of the mitzvah is to do the mitzvah and connect to Hashem. So now I can connect to Hashem with lending out my hand track, even though I'm not necessarily going to get it back. That person has to give it back to me, of course, and of course that has to happen, and of course that will happen, mitzvah in the right time. But the way you interact with this dealing or this business or this whatever proposition is very different. That's what we're saying. So mitzvahs hergesh and the true feeling of this, true recognition of this idea, hu mitzad hayichida dafka, specifically from the level of the yichida. Because in the lower levels of the soul, lower levels of the world, and as we explained before, being that the connection to Hashem is on these lower levels, it's the way they are. And also the way they grasp themselves in Hashem's will. As if it's the way it is included in the form. And in the form is like the person that wants his money. That's the only reason why he's doing it. He's returning. He's going to hold on to the wallet until he gets his hand track back. That's what he's going to do, and that's the logic, and that makes sense on that level. Because that's all on the lower levels. But only when you get to the level of the yechida, there's no form, and it's not included in anything whatsoever. And its connection to Hashem is because of godliness, not because of its benefit. And there you feel the true essence of Hashem's will, as it is by itself in simplicity, meaning as it is before it's come down to all these issues. And its ultimate purpose is that Ratzon itself. And so when you're tapping in, when you're living, or when you're dealing with this idea on the essential level, so then you're able to give and not have to worry about how you get your money back. Yeah, a little bit deep idea, but ultimately, and to make it practical, or not to make it practical because it is practical, but to bring out the practical application of it, is that we have to recognize when we're doing a mitzvah, even if the mitzvah makes sense to us, like giving tzedakah to the poor, or whatever it is, could be davening for us makes sense. We have to appreciate that on a deeper level, this is Hashem's will, and I get to do Hashem's will. Like it says, the schar mitzvah is the mitzvah. The reward of the mitzvah is not the reward that I get, is the mitzvah itself, because I get to connect to Hashem. What greater reward can there be? And so we should be able to recognize that and appreciate that when we do the mitzvahs. And when we do recognize that, and the more we learn, the more we recognize, the better, the greater the impact, and the more it will have an effect in our lives in a positive way. To be continued tomorrow.